I'm the poor man's James Lipton tonight. This is not, going to be a sneak attack on you, Billy, or anything like that. But I had the extreme pleasure of working for about 3 months with you on Andersonville. John Frankenheimer directed this wonderful Civil War thing for who did TNT, I think.
Right.
And I remember it so vividly. You played Billy Munn, and the thing about William Sanderson, I knew some of his history beforehand, but we were brothers in arms in this Civil War prisoner of war camp, in the mud and the snow and the rain, and working for one of the great directors who just passed away a couple years ago, John Frankenheimer. We've both worked for John several times. And I have to say, the thing about you that fascinates me is that whatever you were doing in whatever scene, I cared about what you were up to.
Well, thank you. But it was great fun working with him, wasn't it? He's a legend, and I miss him.
Me too.
And this was one of the kindest actors I ever worked with, and that's what I remember. It was muddy and rainy, and the background, the reenactors would sleep in tents and get pneumonia, but I'd come back to LA and say, we had so much fun, and it was great. But he is a great memory and was terrific. And
I played a one-legged, I walk on 2 artificial legs, but that was too much for the producers, so I played a one-legged Civil War vet from Maryland named Samson, and I was on the scaffold when we were hanging William and 5 other guys. One of the scariest moments of my life, when you get into a role, and it felt like we were about to execute 6 guys. And Fred Coffin, the late Fred Coffin, a wonderful actor, Frederick Forrest, who was not hung, he was one of your judges, and Michael, I can't remember all of the actors' names, but I saw one of the guys I hung in a voiceover audition, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and it was just, it's the beauty of what we do. I want to ask you some of the James Lipton type questions. I've read, Bob Newchow faxed me about 115 pages about you and past interviews, and I want to be a little more spontaneous.
Can I ask one favor, though, if there's any people from Deadwood in the audience? If you are, you make it harder for me to lie about it. But there is one wonderful actor named Peter Jason, if I can interrupt
Please.
you a minute, who plays a real-life character named Con Stapleton, and he's there in the audience. And
Peter.
Peter worked on 11 movies with Walter Hill, great film director, who happened to direct our pilot. So I'll try not to interrupt you anymore.
No. My job is to shut up in a second.
Lie away, Billy, lie away.
Only about myself now.
Let's.
The last man standing with him. He's a great director.
Yes, he is.
Very nice man, Walter.
Yeah, and as Frankenheimer.
Well, let's start with Deadwood, and then we'll work our way backwards. You say, I read somewhere that you said that you play a lot of prairie scum.
Yeah, I probably read that somewhere about some other character actor. There's not much original that'll come out of my mouth. But a lot of renegades, bad guys, and I'm playing a weasel. They tell me now he's kind of a sniveling sycophant, a suck-up. And I asked myself, why have you survived 3 years? 3 seasons, and I think because I had so much practice in Hollywood. And but I'd rather be typecast than not cast at all.
Amen. I read, and again, I'd rather hear it from your lips, but work is the thing that binds us all together. My wish for my brother and sister actor is that everybody would get a chance to make a living at this profession that we love. But it seems that you work all the time. Tell me about those times when you don't work. What kind of a guy are you?
That's a myth.
Yeah?
But thank you for saying that. You know, I happened to work with Johnny Carson once, and when he died, he said that he had more disappointments than successes. So that hit home, and in the eyes of the world, he had everything, but he had lots of disappointments. So there's been many highs and lows, but I always tried to do something. If it was a no-budget film or a play for nothing, which Peter has done a number of plays and probably got paid. But I try to stay busy, but that's the joy of having a regular job on Deadwood. And thank you for coming out in the rain and seeing a journeyman actor. It would be sometimes if Clooney or somebody was here, I think it would mean more than a bent coin coming out of a Coke machine, which is what I have to impart sometimes. I jumped all around.
Don't be too
No,
humble here.
you know, I've spent my life digging my toe in the dirt, and it's working okay.
Well, were you born in Memphis?
Yes, and
I want to know what the 50s and early 60s were
oh,
like in
you have
Memphis.
a music background, right?
I'm a
And,
musician, a guitar player.
He's a
and-
very bright man, UCLA, English literature, and I know he's a guitar player, but I could never talk enough about being a kid in Memphis when I could see Elvis and Sun Records, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash. I once saw 3 or 4 of them for $1 in an amphitheater in the park. And we got to play football with Elvis, and I'd sneak in the movies at night, and you drop the right name, and he would rent the amusement park, and you could go in there as a teenager and ride these rides free. And I saw him followed by women and like a Pied Piper, and I don't know, maybe that's why I wanted to be an actor. I once thought if I could only travel with Elvis, that'd be a dream come true. But we had Stax records, you know, with all the
Yes,
black artists.
Sam and Dave.
And black artists played a lot in Memphis, and so I couldn't do that. So acting was a second choice, and it makes me humble to this day. Music may be the most ideal of the arts, but I'm a little more proud of acting than I was when I started.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody can do it. I think it's a social service to make people laugh, but we ain't saving lives, and we're not curing cancer. And so I do run on, don't I?
No, this is, hey, we're here to hear you. So you make it sound like you were chasing Elvis around and suddenly you decided to become an actor, but I think if you've read William's biography, you went to law, you got your law degree.
Yeah, I seem to have, like I bet a lot of us, at least 2 sides. I would try to hang out with the kids that in student council, and some of them became merit scholarship winners, you name it, all these wonderful schools. And then there was another side that would sneak out, and I was handled for a juvenile offense and steal cars, but go see Elvis and stay out late at night. But I'd hang out with quasi hoods.
Yeah.
And so I felt always torn, and maybe that's why I became an actor, because I could pretend to be any of them, you know, things that I wasn't really, tough guys. Well, I'm pretty good at playing cowards.
Cowards are some of the most interesting characters you can play.
Oh yeah, man, that fear is a great adrenaline rush, man. You know, as you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, whether he's lying or not, he said he was scared every time he went in a fight, but it's probably different from my fear. And he overcame it, didn't he?
Sometimes fear is the greatest motivator. You know, somebody told me if you're not a little bit nervous, I just came from the set of CSI, and like you, I'm grateful, very grateful for regular work.
It's a great show. Congratulations.
Well, we've all had journeys. You know, that's the great thing. We're all trying to take a journey here, but you can do something over and over and over again, but I'm always a little nervous that somebody's going to see through my dog and pony show, and that I'm going to blank all of a sudden after 130 episodes and just look at something and go, ooh.
Yeah, I know. You're speaking about nervous. If I could share this with the audience, there's a famous actress, Sarah Bernhardt. she was with a young new actress, and the young new actress said, I never get butterflies. And Sarah Bernhardt looked at her and said, it comes with talent. But everybody works differently, and some of them will smack you right in the head and can't wait, and then the others are, oh. But everybody works differently.
So, was the Army after law school?
I volunteered for the draft at 18. I did a lot of dumb things. But Elvis was a hero. You know, he did martial arts. I thought I'd do martial arts. And we had the same guy. Elvis didn't know me, but I was once in his living room, and he was playing the piano, and he said to his friends, I wondered who that was in my house, and I didn't know who it was. But I got to hear him play Blueberry Hill and Don't Be Cruel. I hung around the store on Beale Street in Memphis, and the owner let me ride out to his house. Anyway, about the Army, I volunteered for the draft and went in at 18 and got out at 20, ultimately using the GI Bill to get through.
Law school.
Yeah.
Were you stationed anywhere fascinating? Or?
No. I mean, Fort Benning, Georgia, largest infantry training center in the world, but my brother was in Vietnam twice, and they didn't tell me to go, so I didn't go. But I look back on it, and I'm very appreciative of the discipline and everything, like working with Frankenheimer. Just keep your mouth shut and march forward. Tennessee Williams has a favorite phrase of his. He said, en avant. It means, I believe, for the French-speaking people, march forward. And when we get great directors, that's what we do. Just keep going. And don't question it. I don't. Peter may argue a lot. But what I'm saying is the military background helped me.
With John Frankenheimer, it certainly did. Mm-hmm. He was a guy who could do any job on the movie. And to me, it was like John Brown, the abolitionist. He would wear this hat, and you could always see where he was. There were 4,000 people spread everywhere, and suddenly it was almost as if the clouds parted and there was Frankenheimer.
Oh, yeah, and he didn't like me in his drinking days, like 20 years ago, but for some reason he liked us both 10 years later. But I remember once wanting to do a scene so badly and running up to him like a child, I can do it better, John, I can do it better. And he said, I said, we're doing it again. Like, get the hell out of here, man. I'll let you do it again. And he was just gruff, but underneath, I think there was a great humanity and wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll touch on that again.
Well, he helped us.
Yes, he did.
At a time we needed to be helped.
Big time. The scariest thing I've ever done in my life is they were going to cut a scene, my one big scene out of the movie. And I ran up to John and I said, I've worked this scene, I can do it. And he stops and he looks at me, and I thought I was going to be tossed off the picture. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Mr. Hall will do his scene.
Yeah.
And thank you. Yeah. He was that kind of guy. So Army, and then it's off to New York City?
Well, I saved my money in the Army, went to college in Texas, expensive private school, ran out of money, transferred to Memphis, and got a BBA, and then got a law degree. And then this when my life took a wrong turn, so to speak. I went straight to New York to do theater and bartend for TGI Fridays and a lot of other famous places. I was a star bartender. And I don't want to put it too crudely, my manager who took care of me, and I love him, he said, you got to keep a shift, Sanderson, so you can get laid. You know? I didn't like the phrase then or now, but bartending was a good gig. I had a lot of friends, but I also made a lot of mistakes.
I just love to hear you talk.
Well, I love to hear me talk too.
So
that's what my wife said.
Well,
you love the sound of your own voice, is what she said.
We'll talk about Sharon in a minute here, but now you studied with William Hickey?
Yes, oh bless him, he was wonderful.
Why was he wonderful?
If you wanted to get up and perform, even though he drank and he was cranky, you could perform. So if you'd stay long enough, but he knew how much I was dying to act and do the plays, and they say, you walk like you got sticks for legs. So I'd go back to class and try to correct it. But Bill once took me up to Broadway where he was doing a play, and he said, "You want to practice some monologue?" And I said, "Yeah." So I never was on Broadway, but I still would love to be. But he let me go out there on this huge, beautiful stage and practice. And he taught me a lot of things. It was hard to get partners who were reliable, and I became a little better at doing monologues than scenes, but I hope I'm better than I was then. But he's just a benevolent, sweet, encouraging man who, for people that might not remember him, he was nominated for an Academy Award in Pritz's honor. He was about to lose his apartment, and it went condo, and that movie came out of nowhere. But I didn't want to get emotional, but my wife and I beg your pardon?
HB Studios.
Yeah,
right.
the cheapest school I could find. But he was in L.A. and he ran into my wife and I in West Hollywood, and he did like this: "Oh, Billy, you've done so well." He's just a sweet man. He could play women, men, crazies. He'd play his grandmother and look at the veins in his hands and put a shawl around his shoe. But he loved to drink too. Man after
That probably
my heart.
helps doing that. That's
Forgive my long-windedness.
So you did off-Broadway stuff, or?
Way off, yeah. Yeah, I got a friend named Tracy Walter, a great character actor. They wrote this part that I did on Newhart for Tracy, and somehow I got it. But we both worked with Tommy Lee Jones, and I was saying, look, Tommy paid a lot of dues like we did, Tracy. He did plays, and Tracy said, "Yeah, Bill, but he did plays people came to see." If you ever look Tracy up, he's hundreds of movies, and I got a lot of jobs he turned down, or several anyway.
So you studied for a while in New York, and then you just decided to head west to L.A.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out in the rain before I forget. Yeah, I got lucky in '76 and got 4 straight independents. One was a PBS film, and one of the writer-directors whom I met at Cannes, and I had 3 projects or something over there, but thought I was God, man. Drinking, and you know how many films I got coming out. It's ridiculous. But anyway, from those films, I moved to California and used the footage to get in some bigger films. So,
Do you remember some of the films at that time that you got into?
oh, I remember them vividly. A casting director at CBS said it was a pathetic film. It's called, I don't even want to say the name, the first one. The second one I did was Savage Weekend, and where I played the town crazy. Surprise, surprise. And then and the third one was Other Side of Victory for PBS. And the fourth one, it still haunts me. It's called Fight for Your Life, where this convict terrorizes a black family. It's dreadful. But I feel like an actress who took her clothes off to get a better job. That, you know, I've always taken the jobs to learn and hopefully grow. But I took the footage from those, and you take out some of you take out a good scene and then show it to somebody for Coal Miner's Daughter or a couple others.
Now, Coal Miner's Daughter was what year?
1979, and I was on a little bit of a roll there, or beginning one, but great fun. I since survived 6 projects with Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm proud of that. People say, "I don't like Tommy," and I'll say to them, "Which one?" He's a great dad when he's with the children, or when he's drinking, he's a different person. When he's directing, altogether different.
How did you get Coal? I love Levon Helm.
Oh, Levon. Yeah, did you know him, Levon? Great drummer, played with the band.
I was once playing somewhere, and he walked in and he actually sat in with our band, and I almost keeled over. It was.
Yeah, he's a great drummer, and then he was good in this movie, 3 Burials, that Tommy Lee did. It's hard for me to pronounce that word, but Levon played the father of Sissy Spacek, and he was a little elusive on the film, but Sissy, what a thrill to work with her, and of course she won the Academy Award, and she had great dignity, and she said something so silly. Oh, a lot of girls could have played this role, you know. I don't think so.
Not so many.
And then I got to do another movie with her and her husband later, right after that.
forgive me for the dates here, but Coal Miner's Daughter was 78 or 9?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Blade Runner was when?
Coal Miner's Daughter came out like early 80, or it was made in 79, I think. Blade Runner came out, it happened about a year later, I guess. It's kind of mixed up, but...
That's a pretty amazing 1-2 punch, isn't it?
Well, you get a little bit, I did several big films, one with Eric Roberts and Sam Shepard, and then on in Blade Runner, and then I started a big one, and they replaced me, and I wanted to kill myself, and I was very depressed.
What film was that?
Cujo. And, but I was playing pretty good parts, and but they fired the director. He'd been nominated for an Academy Award, the ruling class, Peter Medak, and they fired a lot of the crew and told lies. But I was a rascal off the set, I will say that. I drank a little bit and just got on the wrong side of, but I survived, I wasn't meant to play another wife beater. The one thing I would say that frightens me to death, something better has always come along, I look at it as a gift from above, a providential. If I can expound a little further, I have my own definition for a miracle. I'll get in trouble in Hollywood, but a miracle to me is anything that increases your faith in God. And Peter and I get this regular job with people we like, and no prima donnas, and have a lot of fun. Every day is a gift when you're a graybeard, Bruce Dern just got this new job, and he used to say that when we were working together. And now Harry Dean Stanton's got a new job. These guys are older than I am.
Harry's one of my ideals because I love the work he does, and he still plays guitar and sings too. So.
Oh yeah.
It's a
tremendous energy, huh?
So, William, there are people who are obsessed with Blade Runner. I didn't know as much about this. I love the movie and have seen it a few times, but I Googled, there's some Blade Zone place where people, worship the movie, and
well,
I want to find out about working with Ridley Scott and Rutger Hauer and how you got the role. And
I got the role. He just really sat and talked to me. If we can ever get past the casting director, who really helped me get in there, but we just sat and talked, and he looked at some footage. But I'm very grateful to be in a cult film. But I remember the negative. When it came out, it didn't do well. And then one review said it was a fascinating failure. But I think we can agree that Ridley Scott's a visionary, and he could see the riots in LA later, the city on overload, people almost speaking gibberish downtown if you hear the different languages. And he called it LA with a New York skyline or something. But, when you're a journeyman or you're beginning, you get a job like that, you're extremely happy. And for me, it helped me play sympathetic roles as well as I'd been playing bad guys. And one cynical director said, you do that very well, but people think that's all you can do. And then his next movie flopped like hell. And I didn't wish it on him. I just...
just a little, maybe? Or?
No, but I'm just grateful for Ridley because I wore 2 hours of latex makeup, and I can still go into remember a director. This casting director said this guy was great in this movie, and the English director said, I saw that small role, right? But I've run across a lot of people who are jealous of Ridley, or would bring me in because they liked Ridley, or you name it, one from each end of the spectrum.
You said that Joe Pantoliano was up for that role too.
Well, he came up to me and said, you got my role in Blade Runner. I take it as a compliment, because Joe is a great actor. And
yes, he is.
I knew him when he was bussing tables in my bar, and I loaned him some money, just a little bit. But he
And he
wouldn't.
paid you back.
But no. No, but I'm very happy for him, and
Yeah.
he struggled. And when I saw him do a play, I think called The Kitchen, and Joey, with his Italian background, was playing his Puerto Rican accent, I believe, and he was wonderful. And I knew, and Tommy Lee has told me, we can say what we want about Joey, or whatever, but Tommy said the point is he's a good actor. Joe is a great actor.
That's wonderful. Was Newhart right about this time?
Newhart happened in 82.
82, yeah.
When I was doing my film work, such as it was, people said, well, why aren't you doing a TV series? And I finally got on one, and people would say, why aren't you doing more movies? So that question just arose earlier, do you like doing TV? I am just a journeyman, and I can't pick and choose, but
You like
I
working?
like both.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say, I think I'll go do a movie with Russell Crowe for 10 weeks, and then I might take a year off. And I wish I could do it. But it doesn't work that way.
That's
I have
right.
rabbit's feet, four-leaf clovers, horseshoes.
Well, okay, this might be a great time to, I want to talk about Newhart a bit too. Jeff Doucette is a good friend of mine. And
Oh, yes.
a very sweet man. But
Yes, he is.
I think a lot of us might be interested,
Excuse me.
please get comfortable. Might be interested in if you have a process or a method when you know you're going to audition. What do you do, Billy?
Well,
How do you prepare?
I go through a lot of angst, and I say I'm not going, I will go, and I'm not going, and why can't they look at a tape?
Sure.
But there's some kind of need to keep doing it, to prove something. This old Dylan song where he says, even the butler, he's got something to prove. I don't know what I'm trying to prove. I could stop now and we'd eat fairly well. But the process that I go through, hell, I just try to learn the material. I'm usually not lucky enough to get it earlier.
Yeah.
That's a thing a great teacher in New York told me. I didn't listen to her at the time. We can be as good as the time we put in on something. And I don't know how Ian McShane, the guy who plays one of the great villains on our show, does it, because he can get his 2 pages of dialogue, 3 pages of dialogue the night before. And I'm very grateful to just work now and then and make a good living. Ian is worn down, man, but I'm not answering your question. You just try to study the lines the best you can and be as believable as I can. I don't think I prepare well enough. I'll tell you a guy that prepares is, you want to watch? Brad Dourif, who plays the doctor, was nominated early in his career for an Academy Award for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That is a thorough man. He plays these scientists and doctors. He's read 65 books on physics. If you start asking me about my preparation, I get nervous because I'm kind of lazy. I wing it, but I play a guy who's, as I may have said earlier, he's afraid of the world. And boy, no problem. But I love playing it. He's also got another side. You know, James Dickey, that's terrible the way he would talk. The guy that wrote Deliverance. But I don't see Farnham like everybody else sees him. They think he's like a disease or he's contagious. But I see him as about unrequited love. You know, he's just misunderstood. But he's a real life character, and he shot and killed someone. And I'm always lobbying for David Milch, a great writer that created the show. Let me kill somebody. And then I substitute
Yes.
producers
The people you'd really like
Wrong
to
man.
kill, sure.
I don't substitute people like I used to when I was newer at it. But how about yourself? Because I know you went to UCLA and you got the degree in English literature.
Today we're not talking about UCLA so much.
Well, they beat my college, Memphis.
Yes, yes, they did.
That was a fluke because Memphis had already beat them once. I don't know why we had to play them again.
If we could stop If we could have stopped with LSU, it would have been great. But, you know, I started acting because I broke my leg on a motorcycle and I needed the student health insurance.
Wow.
And somebody said, acting's an easy A. And I was an English lit music major and
Disc jockey too.
I did all that stuff, yeah. But a shotgun approach to learning. You know, I wanted to, you went in the Army, I was trying to stay out of the Army. I was roughly, we're about the same age. And I took this acting course that somebody told me would be an easy A, and I fell in love with it. And I suddenly took like 8 acting classes and scored student films. And my father, who's an attorney, my late father, got a notice that I'd made the dean's list. And my dad hadn't called me up for 6 months, and he calls me up and he goes, "What the hell's going on up there?" And I said, I found something that I really love.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a lot of, I didn't jump right into it either, like you. I took my sweet time.
It's interesting to say you fell in love with it, though. I guess that's, you got to love it to put up with rejection.
They just spool it out, though, slowly. You don't find out right away. You know, you think, oh, this exercise, that's so much fun. And girls like actors and musicians, this is great.
Yeah, because we have actors out here, some of whom I hope you'll get me in your next movie. But I had a therapist who was a wonderful writer. He said, "Billy, let's go over to UCLA, NPI, neuropsychiatric. We're drawing unemployment." He said, "We can get this therapy free." So this MD from Yale, psychiatrist, is talking to me, and he said, "You guys take a lot of rejection, don't you?" And yeah, he said, "Somebody has to pay for that." And that always stuck in my mind, and let it stick in your mind. But I twisted around what he meant.
If you get nothing else on this evening, that's so profound.
Well, the doctor said it, but I want other people to pay. I mean, but anyway, he helped some. They all helped some, but...
You know, the reason I know where NPI was is the UCLA prosthetic lab, where I got my first set of artificial legs. It was next door to NPI. And they were always trying to send accident victims in for therapy. And, you know, they thought I was really messed up from my accident in '78. And I went in there and I wanted to talk about everything but my accident, but I was fascinated by what was going on there and the people that were at NPI.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and they sent me over because I was a vet, could go over to the VA and continue. But obviously, it didn't work that well. If you've seen any of the characters I play, or you listen to me up here, you know, you start off on a tangent. But
I'm jumping all over the place
no,
here.
but you know, you get good feedback from the fans on that role you're playing on CSI.
Yeah, I've never been in a position in my life where I got a lot of fan mail, and suddenly I'm very big with women in prison. I don't know. And my wife Judy is here. Beautiful young women come up to me and say, "My mother loves you."
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, please give my regards to your mom." On a serious note, I get a lot of letters from kids and people with disabilities who want to get into the arts in some way, and I take that responsibility pretty seriously.
Yeah, and you've done so much, and you deserve a hand, frankly.
Wow.
But see, the suck up in me never goes away, but I want, like Ian McShane probably gets so tired of it, but I'm wondering if it's really sucking up if you like the person. Or if you mean it.
Well,
you know? Can I just
Jerry
say,
Jewell is on your show, and Jerry
Jerry's great, yeah.
is a wonderful actress who I've known since she started.
Yeah. I read a quote when I was in the Army. You sweetly gave some of my background, and I read a book, and Roosevelt was quoting, or it was about Roosevelt, but it was quoting Goethe. How do you pronounce the German writer's name? And it said, "The masses appreciate doubly a man whose labors are wrung from a handicapped body." It's a hero, you know, whether it's Roosevelt, whether it's Jerry, and whether, you know, I just go home and lick my own wounds, but you overcame so much, and I've got to be careful, because I know if people feel sorry for you, you'll knock them out.
Well,
And I don't. I've seen you work in...
I hereby give everybody permission not to be politically correct around me, but I kind of, I don't like stereotypes, but you said it pretty well at the beginning of this, that you don't mind typecasting as long as you're cast. I think all of us, whether you're African American, whatever ethnicity, age, sex, disability, everybody who has a card in this particular organization wants to work at what we love doing. And I want to see people with disabilities who are qualified, who are working their asses off, get a chance to audition. All you need is an audition. If I can't impress somebody at the audition, screw me. That's my job. It's to, if you open the door and give me a chance to get in there, doesn't matter what kind of competition there is, but you've got to get the door open first.
Oh, sure.
And it's I like the quote, the Goethe quote, but I think when we get to a state, if we ever do, as a people, where we don't go, oh, black man with a walker, bald older guy.
Yeah.
It's important to...
Absolutely.
That's why I think we're actors. I love playing stuff that's not me, but ultimately you're playing a little bit of yourself if you're any good. You've got to access all of that stuff.
Well, I didn't know about Roosevelt's handicap. Didn't know about yours when I met you.
Roosevelt hid it. He kept it. Yeah. They did a great deal to try to hide his polio from the world, and it wasn't a time in history where he kind of felt that America needed the perception of a strong leader. I think now, probably now it would be hard for a person with a disability to be elected president, because we want, and boy do we have it now, the illusion of flying your jet down under the carrier going mission accomplished. Images, we're in the business of creating images, and I want to get this all back to you, because some of the images you've created are absolutely timeless. You call yourself, I'm a journeyman, you're a lot more than that, buddy.
No, but you reminded me, you're talking politics, I stay out of that. But illusion came to mind. What we're doing is the perception of something objectively existing, but in a way to misinterpret its actual nature. Politics, illusion.
Right, show business. Talk politics or religion. This is about acting and the craft here, but...
No, I just interrupted you.
So, people, including yourself, love your prairie scum characters and your left of center people that you play, but so Newhart comes along, and suddenly there's Larry with his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl. How did that all come to be, and did you have that character right from the get-go?
Well, I kind of did, but in New York, I was fascinated by those bums on the street, and in the Bowery, I'd go down and they'd start talking to me, or eyes watering, and, oh, you from Tennessee? I know Johnny Cash. And they got a little band on their arm, just got out of the hospital, and DTs. But they might have a rug remnant on their head, trying to keep it warm in the winter. But this particular one, several layers of clothes, and he's picking lint off his head and said, I'll kill the bitch, And so, walking down the street, and I picked lint off my head, always on Newhart, and they thought I was tipping my hat or something. But it was just one of those crazies in Manhattan, and I took another character. I just don't want to sound so self-serious, but I just played a guy in a play that had true insight into the world, but he was a touch insane, and he was a drunk. So that was the insect comedy, and so I took a little of him and a little of the Town Crazy and Savage Weekend, and the cap, and hid behind it, put a quarter in my ear like I'd see an African American down south when I was a kid, put money, and they thought it was a hearing aid, but I put the quarter in my ear for good luck. And just got lucky. They asked the three brothers to read different parts, and I got it. They wrote it, did I tell you, for Tracy Walter? Did I say that?
Yeah.
Did I tell you that I asked him what happened in the audition? He said, I said, "Do you get a little crazy on him?" He said, "I didn't do anything I usually didn't do. I crawled under some desks." But Tracy has gone on to do many movies, and several with Jack Nicholson, and raised two beautiful children. One's a filmmaker. and graduated from Berkeley. And as a single parent, he's done this and knocked me out of a lot of roles, boy. I was due one, you know.
So he's your Waterloo. I mean, you.
Well, he's one
was.
I always, yeah, in New York, he could work at the Public Theater. And did you work there, Peter?
No, downtown.
Yeah, well, in New York Shakespeare Festival, he'd get paid. and my first job, I made $60 a week at the Theater Genesis down on St. Mark's Place in the Village, where Sam Shepard used to work. But I'm not setting the world on fire now with money.
Is that near the Orpheum Theater?
I think so. I think so. Yeah, St. Mark's Place down in that area, and
Right on St. Mark's and Second Avenue.
right,
Orpheum.
right. And they had some good playwrights come through there.
So I don't want to I don't want to ask you who do you hate, but
Nobody.
in fact, I'm a little nervous about that. But you've worked with a lot of great people. I was thinking of Newhart, Bob Newhart, and part of the beauty of Larry was his deadpan.
Yeah, it was us kooky characters, I guess, reacting to every man. But may I share with your audience what Bob taught me? You know, in Hollywood, they'll praise you to death when you're working. You're so great, or you're brilliant. So Bob just told me once that brilliant is Hollywood's word for fair. Which, I mean, I could never hear enough praise or hyperbole or whatever, but it really helps. Oh, brilliant, Billy. I've had them come down and they probably didn't see the scene. And they run down, that was a brilliant scene. And I'm not running down, we need the encouragement and the compliments. And I just get so indulgent. But Jackie Gleason said it better than anybody. Self-deception thrives in the compost of flattery. You can praise a guy to death or an actress and motivate them and trick them. Get the money up, man. You know, give it, pay us. But I need the praise, so.
You've mentioned Tommy Lee, Bob Newhart. This is great. How about a couple, three others that have had an influence on you when you've acted with them?
Well, certainly Tommy Lee, and he'd sit here, you know, I try to be humble, and he'd say, well, you got a lot to be humble about, son. But I've
Well,
shared,
I went to UCLA, you went to Memphis, and he went to Yale,
Harvard,
right?
but I've shared chartered planes and been to his ranch, and he might say, Bill, who? But you learn from those actors. Tommy's a star, and he's great fun on Westerns to work with, and because that's where he grew up. And but some of the stars,
Doesn't have to be stars, but I mean, everybody knows the stars. I'm interested in actors that just, where you took a breath and said, man, they nailed it.
well, some of them I haven't worked with, like Anthony Hopkins comes to mind, but well, I thought Eric Roberts was terrific when he was younger, and I worked with him. Gosh, that's a tough question. The people I'm working with right now are some of the greatest actors, and HBO, myself accepted, takes people and makes them into something, and we've got guys and ladies from graduate schools, the best schools all over America, and Broadway backgrounds, and Brian Cox, who was in, if you've seen the new Woody Allen movie, Match Point, and Keith Carradine was good, and Ian is started his career out of the Royal Academy, working with Burton, and they bring so much experience. Now this one over here, I had to prop him up at work. Peter's drunk all the time. Peter has done a number of series, and always they would ask me in New York, do you know Peter? Do you know Peter? But anyway, we've got a great cast, and Powers Booth's a great villain. I'm leaving out, I feel like I'm running for mayor. But it is, all I'm trying to say is I'm so thankful to go to work. And I was taught, now I'm going to get in trouble, Peter. An actor that's been around for years said you love and respect the actors you work with. It's tough sometimes, but I think that's what we do on Deadwood. It's tough, but there's a lot of mutual respect, and the crew members, their dads worked with Houston, or their the DP will be off making a movie with Jack Nicholson on his hiatus. The hairdressers are famous in their own right. Marilyn Monroe, one of them's dead. But the actors, if I say any of them that I admire, I've left out some.
I understand.
And I never pay. It's all about me. It's like Tennessee Williams. It's your day, baby.
That's very
No.
When was the original Lonesome Dove?
In 1988, and that was an 11-week vacation for me because of the,
Lippy Jones, right?
yeah, thank you for remembering, but I think it came out pretty well, written by Larry McMurtry. His book won a Pulitzer, am I pronouncing that right? But there was an writer's strike, and boy, those things are tough, 5 months, but that script was already written. So I got to go down and work. Those are two of my favorite casts, that and the one we're on. But now my agents think he only does Westerns, you know. But, hell, maybe they're right.
You know, I got here late, but did you guys write questions out for William, or didn't do it? Good, we'll keep it casual then. That's the way I like it. I know
That's one way to keep me on track.
You've covered all these fascinating questions that I wrote down, so yeah, we've covered a lot of it. Name a couple films or TV things you've worked on that failed miserably that you love doing, and I don't just mean for the
That
paycheck.
could take a long time. That could take.
No, just
one that didn't get in the theaters that I loved working was Faye Dunaway. I got a script called Stanley's Gig, and then you can find it in the video stores if they're sometimes. But it was a thrill to work with Faye. She knows so much about cameras and lighting, and she's difficult, so it's a challenge. I
just autopsied her on CSI.
She's a piece of work, man.
She is, but it was wonderful.
Yeah.
After it was all over, she was so gracious to me.
Well, I think she can be kind to actors, but she has many sides, and I loved working with her. But I lost 12 pounds on this, and they told me I needed to have angioplasty, and I got another opinion through a friend of mine who's a spinal surgeon and knew another doctor. But you shoot those low-budget movies, 7-8 week film in 4.5 weeks, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
And I was in practically every scene, but nobody will see it. But I have the joy of surviving it with Faye Dunaway and learning.
That's a great way to put it.
And I guess that's one of my claims to fame. I worked with a lot of those people, and you can't take the memories away.
That's right.
But there's a television series called Maximum Bob, written by a great writer, Elmore Leonard, and that didn't go, and I think that was Eisner and Disney. He's no longer there, is he? No. I think it was his fault. But my wife Sharon thought, well, we're going to have this home in South Florida, and I'm going to play an inbred, alligator poaching, Coke bottle wearing character and have a lot of fun. But they canceled that after 7 episodes.
You know, when I first met you, and it's been 94 or something like that, tell us a little bit about Sharon. How did you meet? How long have you been married?
Oh, I've lied so much. We've been together almost 20 years.
Is Sharon here?
She's here somewhere.
Where are you, Sharon?
Yeah, but, you know.
She's run out.
That, I should have started backwards if I can, and thank you for the opportunity. When I got to meet Loretta Lynn, I had studied the book about Coleman. She says in there, let's get something straight. I wouldn't be here without Doolittle. And he was mean, boy. I mean, he put his hand on his gun and said, get out on the stage when she was a shy little girl. Sharon's not mean, but I wouldn't be here without her. I drank a lot. Was arrested a dozen times. I'm not trying to make my life into some wild outlaw thing, but I just was stupid, felony stupid. But she helped turn it around and is very great at telling me I'm not that great and stuff like that. May I give you one example and then please? I want to hear about your wife. But I had a scene, they gave me 4 pages the night before, and I'm breaking out. I can't learn this, and the next morning the David Milch said, you're a genius, and no one could learn this. Just do the best you can. And we got through it, and it was really tough. And wonderful actor Garrett Dillahunt was in the scene with me. And when I got home that night, Sharon said, how'd it go? I said, well, pretty good. I guess the crew applauded. And she said, how do you know they weren't applauding? Because you got through it. Now, I didn't like that at all, but in a sense, when you reflect on these things later, instead of your head, you've seen me do it, instead of walking around, you don't know. And she's got great priorities, and I love to see myself on TV or my name in the paper, but she's got 5 brothers and sisters, Pennsylvania Dutch, very tough, you know. She's got good priorities. I'm very vain.
Well, why don't we have some questions here? Bob's got the microphone, and please say your name.
Okay. Hi. Wow. Hello. Donna Walker. I happen to think David Milch is just brilliant. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about working with him and how involved he is at this point in the series. You know, the writing is so superlative on Deadwood and so many of the projects that you've worked on, if you can speak to that.
We're all thrilled to work with him, and he taught, of course, English literature at Yale. He's been compared to Hemingway. I believe he said he writes it in iambic pentameter, but we love working for him, and he's a fairly demanding guy. But there's a lot of things people don't know about him. He'll give $4,000 or $5,000 out on Friday night to the crew because they have to work late, and so they can win $100, $200. He mentors people. Finds time to help struggling writers. And we both feel that every day is a gift. Yeah. I got that from him, and he was self-destructive and still could be. We could all do that any time, but I was trying to think of something specific, but you know, he'll come in and see the scenes before the directors direct them. So he has to do that, and if he doesn't like it, you'll reshoot it. But then he goes back and he's writing all day, and he gives credit to great writers that are there that do outlines, and I think, but David probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, he has his hand in everything, and I wonder when I read about how did we luck into it. But it's a town of misfits. It's a town of outcasts. The people who migrated to Deadwood were not the elite people that settled in Connecticut. They were outlaws, scumbags.
Don, thank you for asking that. I read something where Milch said it's not a Western, it's about original sin.
Yeah, I don't know what it means yet. I don't know exactly. You might explain that.
I just like the sound of that being a good lapsed Christian voice.
Yeah, but I was glad he said it's not a Western because I can wear my cowboy hat and not look like, hey, you know, if it's a Western, I couldn't do that. But
Gabby Hayes is in my future.
Oh, God, he was
Thank
great.
you, Don. Another question?
Hello. Hello, my name's Aaron Turnbull. Thank you for coming down tonight and speaking with us. You've had a really long career and you've worked with a lot of talented people. What would you attribute your success and, you know, all the trials and tribulations you've been through? Is there anything you can attribute that to?
That's sweet of you to ask that. Some people refer to it as a non-career, just a journeyman, but I think there's some need to express myself. In law school, I might ask the dumbest questions in the world, but I'll get to working and I'd be in a rehearsal and I'd hear this. It's just vanity and a need to express. I don't know where it comes from. When people say, why do you become an actor? It's a different answer every night. But Sharon's a big help. I don't like to cite her, but I read a wonderful book about Alfred Hitchcock. And it was at the end of his career he seemed to cite his wife. But when he married her, she knew more about making movies than he did. And she helped him a lot, was a script supervisor, what we'd call it this day. So Sharon's helped me stop drinking so much, but I miss it, and I still sip it a little bit. You mentioned David Milch. Oh. Did that answer your question, though? It's and as a great country singer Merle Haggard said, if you're willing to give up enough, that I don't like to think about, because I wasn't a perfect parent. I wasn't perfect in anything.
Yeah, I'm curious. I didn't know you had kids.
Oh, yeah. I have a grandson. He's 4 weeks old, and I'm going to see him, but that really dates me, doesn't it? I was 14 when I graduated from high school.
Hey.
But I tend to babble and not answer the questions I've been told. But Merle Haggard said it's hard in music. You know, I love Merle Haggard. Poets live forever, singers come and go, so. Find something to do that's healthy between acting jobs. That's really important.
What did you find that was healthy between acting?
I didn't find much, and no, but it took a doctor to tell me you're going to have a heart attack. You've got to find, but I hate to keep citing Sharon. We don't agree on a lot of things, man. But I try to exercise. I've always tried to do that. You can't tell it, but I've always done that.
You're a
and I read a
cuss.
lot. But I really, God, this sounds so corn-pone, but that's why I like what he's doing, what the people at SAG are doing. They helped me when I was broke. I'll think of it in a minute. It's not what you get out of life, it's what you give back.
Somebody else with a microphone?
Hello, my name is Hortense. I'm staff. Could you please introduce your brothers?
Yeah, the imaginary brothers. Can I stand up and do it? I love them. I love them. And people say, you still stay in touch with them? I say, I try not to, but I love those guys. Hi, I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl. But it was like being married to two people, and we outlasted, some of us, our own marriages, and that is where you need love and respect, because I got the glory. The salaries were different, but I had nothing to do with that. I could talk for hours about that, but you know, the bands that can't keep the harmony can't stay together. And you read about the great comic groups, not our little gig that we had, but they had great integrity and character and put their own egos aside. And for those who saw that show, and
I wondered about that when I saw it. You know, how it must be kind of tough being you got all the laughs. And
yeah, and people would ask me, did they mind not talking? And I would say, if they did, they never said anything to me about it. But that's not fair. This one has done over 100 plays even 20 years ago, still doing, and the other had studied in England, and they discovered them at the Mark Taper Forum, which I never could get in. I could get an audition, I couldn't get a job. But I learned a lot from them. And
I want to ask you about voice work. That's something we share too. You've done animation, also commercial voiceover too, or?
Yeah, some books on tape, a little bit of all of it, but not much lately. I don't know. It's just hard to be available, and
Sure.
because you might not know. I certainly won't know till the night before, and sometimes 7 in the morning. But when I did get to do the cartoons, they paid some bills or voiceovers or.
You remember any of the cartoons you did?
Well, Batman. They called the agent and said, we want a guy like was in Blade Runner, and the agent said, well, I represent that guy. And they said, well, come on down, and you meet such wonderful actors.
Andrea Romano. Yeah, wonderful lady.
But that's going back a while. Can you get me on? I'd like to get a series if you could get.
It's like you said earlier. If I could do that, I'd get it for myself. You know what?
Well, I've done a little bit all of it, but
That's another thing. People say, you know, you work on this #1 show. Could you get me on the show? And I go, well, there's this guy named Jerry Bruckheimer with about 250 close friends, and then there's this pecking order, and I'm kind of like number 8 on the cast. So if you're willing to wait for, number 2,116. I think I can get you on the show.
That's a great answer, and I get asked, and it torments me that I can't help anybody.
I know you have some fortune, some good fortune in this thing, and I know people that are so close to making their insurance or whatever, and you can't always help the people you want to help the most. It makes you nuts, but you have to sort of go on with your life.
Yeah, I could use some improvement in that area, but I've always been helped somewhere, whether it was a bar manager when I was bartending or whether it was a director or something. But we, as I can use the word journeyman again, and I'm very happy being one, don't have that much power to help somebody else.
Right.
Even Sissy, when she won the Academy Award, I heard her tell somebody, I can get you an interview, but I can't get you a job. I don't know if I can get you an interview.
I can point you in the right direction.
I can give you a lot of BS though, about hanging in there.
Do we have some other questions up here?
Yeah, I wanted to thank both of you gentlemen for coming out tonight in the rain yourselves. I'm right here. My name's Will. You both bring so much soul to every performance that you do, and you really are the soul of what we see. You're kind of the audience liaison that introduces us to what you're doing. I wanted to ask Mr. Sanderson, when you have had projects that have been pitched to you that you've turned them down, what has been your reason for turning them down?
Thank you. I don't know if anybody ever asked me that. I haven't turned many down, and when they did, it was a big thrill. Probably the most arbitrary reason in the world, if you go back to a show, Hill Street Blues or something, they might bring in a bunch of actors one day and make them audition. Great, we'll have you back. And then they bring in a whole group of new actors. And we chose to be actors, so we can't complain, but once they offered me some despicable character, and I said no. It's hard to turn anything down when my son's 25 now, and I've drawn unemployment over the years, not proud of that. Worked at 7-Eleven, worked as a longshoreman. I don't have horror stories like some people. Lots of tragedy, though, that I survived.
Don't stop there. I got to know what it is.
No, it's too personal. Well, it's bore you all, but I turn them down sometimes because my friend says if they get you for nothing, they treat you like nothing. But I haven't turned many things down, and I did student films in New York and froze my can off, and they never finished the film. And I just was obsessed to do anything I could to learn. And
you're still learning.
There's a temptation to take myself seriously because I'm sitting here and you're sitting there, but we're all the damn same. And I often thought we should all sit on the floor or something. I'm just lucky. And the cliche, it's better to be lucky than smart sometimes. But I don't know what my perspective is worth, but I'd turn it down for different reasons because my wife says we are going on vacation. And she doesn't do that much, but you wouldn't.
Where was your last vacation?
Well, in Pennsylvania, we bought a little house, a modest house, and a writer came looking for us to do a story, and he was looking for a mansion, And they said, you live here? But it's a lovely neighborhood. And
on a lake, maybe?
Yeah, well, there's a swimming pool, but the meanest person was Toronto newspaper. Newhart's Larry buys cheap digs. But that's only 2 domiciles we have, and it ain't over yet. And Ian McShane, that I learned so much from, he says we live as a middle class and put our problems into work. He's had a Rolls Royce. He's had a lot of things, but I love those words. But I want more cribs if it happens. And if nothing else, to get back at the producers.
I actually read something, you said something nice about producers, though. Your wife produced a play,
Oh,
and
my
you
gosh.
realized how tough it was to actually try to produce something.
Yeah, she just wanted to learn, and she also did a favor for one of the actors on Newhart that played my brother and let him play the lead role, and he did us a favor too, but she made sure they all got a little money, they all finished the play, and she would take reviews of each actor, try to find something nice, put them up. I would have said, to hell with you, I gave you the job, didn't I? Take a hike. No, she's just a hard worker, and the director. We were learning. I produced a little play in New York in Gramercy Park, but it helped me get another play.
Was that Scott-
Plays
Scott's
are
on the
where we
Rocks?
learn, I think, learn to act.
What was the name of that play?
Hello out there.
Hello Out There, okay.
Yeah, and but my wife, she's okay. She got lucky.
Some more questions? Go ahead. Say your name, too.
Andrew Waldman.
Hi, Andrew.
Oh, beg your pardon, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Mr. Sanderson.
How are you?
Good, thank you. I really appreciate what you were just saying, and you kind of touched on my question when you were talking about New York, and you just said doing plays, you learn to act. That was like very precise to what I was thinking and going to ask you, because I remember I was an usher at the play when Al Pacino was doing American Buffalo on Circle in the Square Theater. And, little playhouse like that. And you said you had worked, I think, at the Genesis Theater on St. Mark's or whatever. Now, being from New York, I used to go see a lot of little plays. And I wondered if you, like you said, if you learned a lot doing off-Broadway and you like it because you could hone your craft.
Well, I hope I learned. There was never enough. He never stopped learning. I learned from Ian in the last scene I had this week. But the theater was invaluable, and the agents, when I came out here, got mad about something. And he said, "I'm selling this." And he pointed to the resume with the credits. They weren't big Broadway plays. Everybody would like to get a Broadway play and move to California or a hit film. But New York... there's that saying, if you want to do movies, go to New York and do theater. You did, didn't you, Peter? Yeah. And he's certainly done a lot of movies. Look him up. Jason, right?
Sir,
Anyway,
we can
so
IMDb
New York-
everybody now. That's
Yeah, I love that. And you taught me that you make every actor feel so good down there. I'm usually so insecure. It's not that I don't respect them, but I'm thinking, oh God, am I going to know my lines? And what about this audition I had 5 years ago and I should have gotten that job? But this man, he would take time and to be pleasant to the other actors and real, but everybody works a different way.
you say you're so shy and everything. I was nervous too.
Try about auditioning.
Auditioning.
Yeah, for sure.
We had dinner that one night, and I was wildly impressed. You were such a gentleman and not ashamed about it. And it was...
You must have caught me on a good night.
I must have.
'Cause I come home and gripe and moan and this and that. But you put up your good behavior, and somebody taught me on the movie Blade Runner. There was a young girl that said, I wouldn't have this job if it weren't for my dad. But she told me, because people are nice to work with doesn't mean they're nice people. But I still get sucked in. But we probably should remember that might be true, because I'll have the greatest experience on one film and with this person, and you'll hear horror stories from somebody else. Dee Wallace, when I saw her at a premiere the other day, she summed it up very well. She says, depends on who you talk to. Whether this person is a genuinely decent soul or whether they're borderline evil. But thank you for saying that. I fooled you.
You did. I'm a very gullible
Where were we?
guy.
Where did we eat? No, back at you. You were the same way.
I'm trying to remember. I remember the store next door had a tambourine with all kinds of down south Christian iconography on it, and I still wish I had bought the tambourine because it looks so cool. But and we had to read. They lost a reel of this film, and we had to go back a year later. We went to North Wilmington that time.
And I hate they lost it, but it was more money.
Yeah,
and that's a
that's
lovely
what I
place
thought,
to
too.
work. And my son lives an hour and a half from there. But anyway,
We got some other questions here.
It's not really a question, it's just, back in New York, we were always taught to try to persevere as much as possible. When I knew you, Bill, at least in our youth, you were the hardest working actor I think I've ever known. You went after everything.
yeah, jump.
Of course, I don't remember anything about Perry Street. I don't remember anything about student films, but I just know that if it was at all possible, you'd have been out there 24/7.
It was a need, and it's not healthy, but I just was obsessed with learning, or maybe it's just vanity. But thank you for remembering that. And the bar owners that gave me the jobs, some have passed away. I love them, and I'm grateful, and didn't get to thank some of them. But I did some stinkers. But, you know, two schools of thought, right? You can be choosy about what you do, or you can take everything. You can imagine what I did.
And you're always going to run into somebody who saw you in something that maybe you didn't like, but that they loved.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to learn how not to.
subjective, isn't it?
Right. You don't want to hear the actor say, "Oh, that was a piece of junk," you know.
I still wish I could play music, though, because that lifts us up.
I got a friend who owns
got
a
the
music
guitar
store.
here?
Yeah, well, it's home. We got a couple more questions over here.
My name is Tom Nobles, and I'm from Chattanooga. I just moved out here from New York. I tried acting when I was young, and I wasn't very together, and I had a little success, but I was I had a lot of stuff to work out, and it took me a really long time to work it out. And now I've just moved out here, and I'm gonna, and I had a lot of demons for a lot of years, and I'm happy now. And I wanted to know if you, Mr. Sanderson, need your demons to work. Do I need to, get my demons back, or can I be happy and work?
There's all those different schools of thought. Tennessee Williams says, if I lose my devils, I'll lose my angels. But I think the healthiest people do the best job. The neurotic people might be good one night, and then, or great 2 nights, and then their problems can interfere. So I guess we strive for being healthy. But I do think it's good for us to be actors if we have things that trouble us and can put it into work. My goodness, it's just a gift when we get to do it. But try to play the character as it's meant to be played. But I cheat a lot, and remember a lot of, Stanislavski is a great acting teacher, said what people take as talent is sometimes merely the culmination of the previous day's problems. And that's out of context, but I don't think I'll dry up my self-doubts, my insecurities, my anger, I'm told. But I don't know. Happiness, you mentioned that. I think it's a form of mental illness. I never sought it. I'm seeking pleasure. Forgive me. And you all are so sweet. I was thinking, if nobody shows up, I can say because of the rain. I'm just so grateful that you all showed up.
Another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about a moment in the episode that we watched before this. The moment when Wolcott offers E.B. the tip for bringing the bags up. And I just wanted to ask you, that's such a great moment. Is it scripted, that insecurity about, he really wants to take that money and it's really hard for him not to, or is that something that came from you?
I think, to be perfectly honest, without trying to be clever, I think that was an accident. But we had a great actor there who played the guy who shot Hickok the year before and could droop his eye. And this man is one of the ones with the masters, Garrett Dillahunt. His series, Revelations, may have just gotten canceled, but he came back and played an totally different character. And if acting is reacting, half the battle is done when you're with great actors. But Farnham was trying to scam him, but that was an accident. Sometimes we'll just instinctually get lucky. We had a scene, well, accident. But he is a greedy guy, and he wants money from me. And I'm still learning about him because, but I don't think Charles Manson sees himself like other people. He would think he's built a bad hand, and you know he tried to write songs. I got Jesus in a cellar talking through a hole and stuff. He's a frustrated artist, so I didn't want to be Charles Manson. I had to act, thank you. Not to make it sound more than it is, but.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Let's.
Hey, Bill.
Hi.
It's Jack Kyle here from Sparta,
Oh,
Tennessee.
Hey man, how are you?
I got the pleasure to work with Bill on Without a Trace, and I just got to tell you that I look at your career and your work and the movies you've done and TV shows, and anytime I get stuck or anytime I start feeling a little bit like I'm losing the faith, I'll watch your work and it picks me right up.
Well, I thank you, and you were great fun to work with on that. And one of the things I didn't do is make friends. I think I was too wrapped up in myself. Usually just insecure and stayed alone a lot. But you invited us to your party, and you've done it since, and I thank you because really, ultimately, it's the relationships. I don't get many jobs that somebody hadn't hired me before or remembered me. And I thank you for that.
I thank you as well.
And get me in your next film now.
Always working it. That's good.
No, it's pitiful, man. It's pitiful. It's pitiful, you know.
It's pitiful until you get the job, then it's great.
Well, I've been asked lately, through the grace of God, some advice for young people or actors breaking in, and I've spent my whole life selling myself, and I'm lucky that I can talk about anything besides my damn self. So you're helping me practice here.
Well, I want to thank you for your generosity.
David,
Bob,
before you go, you know, I mean, I know we paid you a lot to come here to interview Billy tonight, you know, and you came, but we are raising money for the new Actor Center. And David can go over there by the poster. The raffle tickets are over there. And we're going to have you pull the raffle ticket, and then we're going to have you both sign this poster over to the winning ticket holder.
Great.
Can I tell them something real quick while
Yeah,
you're doing
go
that?
ahead, go ahead.
Just that this union, with all its faults, I was broke out here. And in New York, they'll try to help you. Equity had no money. SAG had, AFTRA had no money. But they loaned me $2,000. And I said, now when do I pay this back? In 1979 or 8. And they said, you don't have to. Just help us when you have it. Or, you know, when you can. And so I love this union, and I hope we can all remember that. And I don't know whether they've given out a lot of money. Now we have AIDS and have a lot of people, but it's a great union, and I hope to do better. Thank you for letting me take that time.